Osnat Shurer, welcome to CNN News 18.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, first, I just want to thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule. Osnat, you're the producer of such memorable animation hits like 2016's Moana. You were also a consulting producer on Arthur Christmas, and your next production, Moana 2, is scheduled to hit screens later this year. We'll of course talk about your movies and the workings of Hollywood. But first, we are just few hours away from the 96th Academy Awards. Who do you think will be taking home the Oscar trophy in the Best Animation Feature Film category? And the nominations are The Boy and the Heron, Elementor, Nimona, Robot Dreams, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
It's funny, whenever I think about these questions about the Oscars, I'm thinking, who do I want to have take it? Who do I think will take it? What do I think is the atmosphere of the voting body? So first of all, these are 5 very strong films, very different films. I have friends who've been involved in every single one of them. So of course, there's also that feeling for the friends. I also think there's some really cool things being done in animation today. So I think they're all very worthy contestants and very different than each other. I admit to being a very big Miyazaki fan, and I think he's amazing and has done so much for our medium. And so there's something about The Boy and the Heron that I think is very, very special. But if you ask me who I think is going to win the Oscar, and you can call me back when I'm wrong, I think it's going to be Spider-Verse. Actually, I think there's something that whole franchise has done in giving us new, fresh films every time. That's something for everyone who's doing sequels to learn about.
So then, which according to you will take the Golden Gold statue home in the Best Animation Short Film category? The nominations in this category are Let Us Do a Pig, 95 Senses, Our Uniform, Pachyderm, War is Over, inspired by music of John and Yoko. What's your pick?
I can't tell you what I voted for, but I can tell you what I think will. Let's see. War is Over actually was made by a friend who was with me at Pixar as a wonderful animator and now director. And I do think it's a beautiful film. I think its toughest competitor is Letter to a Pig. It's a beautiful, beautiful Israeli film. I'm Israeli, about the Holocaust, but in a way that's very touching. I think probably it's John and Yoko. I mean, I love Dave Mullins, the director. Dave, you're awesome. But I think that right now has the strongest momentum and the broadest recognition. It's interesting in the Academy, we vote in our branch for the short list and until we get to nominations, and then everybody across the Academy votes for the nominated films to see which one wins. And that's where it becomes more popular opinion, especially in shorts that you don't really see in the movie theater. There's no marketing for, but it's a very, very strong group of nominees in the animated shorts. Very different, very beautiful, very interesting.
You're a member of Academy and a voting member of the Academy. You have nominated twice for your short film. Which film, according to you, going to be the big winner this year?
I think Oppenheimer is going to take Best Picture. And I think there were some very strong films, but I think Oppenheimer does stand out. It was an incredibly crafted film and an important film to make, but so are some of the others. I mean, it's a great list, which is nice, but I think Oppenheimer's going to take it.
As I said, you are a voting member. So there's according to recent reports, there's a very tough competition, which is between Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower of the Moon and Emma Stone for Poor Things in the Best Actress category. Who do you think will take home the Oscar in this category? The Best Actress.
I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'm actually going to guess it's going to be Annette Bening for Naiad. It's a masterwork. Lily's amazing. And her acting's amazing, and I'd be so happy if she takes it because it just means so much on so many cultural levels aside from her performance, and also I do think it's tough to predict this group, but Annette Bening in Naya is mind-boggling. How strong she is and all that incredible level of experience, but we shall see.
A lot of people are expecting
More between Annette and Lily, personally. Emma's done other work that she's gotten nominated for, but
a lot of Oscar pundits are saying that it's going to be Lily Gladstone for.
probably. Yes, probably, and it would be amazing because it just makes history and she deserves it. It's not just because she'll be the first Native American, but it's very meaningful culturally. Having worked on films like Moana, where you work with indigenous cultures, it would be amazing to see that happen too. So I'm rooting for all of them. I don't know what to say. Strong performances.
So then, what is your take on the Barbies, Greta Garwick and Margot Robbie's Oscar snub?
It's funny because I've been watching the gender issues in the Academy for a long time. I helped head up a committee for diversity in the animation branch. So I think the issues are real. The fact you look at the numbers on women directors, you look at the number, the issues are real. Specifically for Barbie, I think it also sits in the question in the Academy of hit versus Academy winner.
Yes.
That's a different conversation. I think Barbie was an important film culturally for women. I also know very few men who liked it, and the Academy is primarily male, so there's that. But I think it's a movie that makes people uncomfortable. And so if they're not from the gender that's experienced what the movie's about. And so within all that, it is ironic that Ryan Gosling is the only one who gets nominated. That said, he was amazing in this movie. He stood out in this movie. So I think it's complex, like all the issues of inclusion and exclusion are complicated. But I think that the movie is underrated because of the choices of the pink, the ironic, what was meant to be tongue in cheek of the style and the popness of it. I think it underrates its cultural significance, and I think Greta Gerwig is brilliant. I think that movie could have been a catastrophe, and instead it was actually really smart. And so is Margot Robbie, who chose Greta Gerwig. She's not just the actress, she's a producer and a very smart woman. Again, very beautiful, and it's not always easy to get creative respect when you look like that. But that's another story.
Or would you say Academy has a history of not honoring blockbusters?
Yeah.
They did not give it to Top Gun last year.
Yeah, I think those are some things that are for us to keep figuring out in the Academy, because you also don't want to. We're an academy that's about excellence in filmmaking, and many times the excellent filmmaking films are very obscure. Even important ones are obscure in their time, or don't make a lot of money, or whatever it is. So it's very hard. It's a hard thing to find a balance, and I think as an academy, as a guild, we struggle with that, because it's meant to be filmmakers honoring filmmaking, not the business side already honors itself by having income. So I think it's a complex thing, and what I appreciate about the Academy now is that we're having all these conversations. It used to not be, so I appreciate that.
Also, Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences announced recently that they'll be introducing a new category for the best casting. That of course will start from next year. Do you think Oscar should also have a category for the best stunts?
It's a little difficult sitting in the animation branch, because we're considered a single branch, but we're not. There's so many different crafts that go into animation. We have production designers and storytellers and artists and everything, and editors and everything else. So, and yet we're bunched in a bunch together. So I do think that the more we can look at what areas of craft excellence we should be acknowledging and raising up and letting the world know about. I think that's for us to keep figuring out. But for us within the animation branch, we often feel like we're just all lumped together because it's not, animation isn't a branch like cinematography. Animation is it's not a genre, it's a medium. And so here's live action and 25 branches, and here's animation. So there's things for us to figure out. That said, sometimes it can become too big. So again, I do think, at least in the animation branch, we have amazing governors this year, and they are thinking deep thought, not afraid to ask the big questions and try to figure it out.
So then, your next production, Moana 2, is slated to release in November later this year. What can we expect?
For full disclosure, I left Disney some months back when we had brought Moana to script, and went back into the more independent world of working more in the world of independent shows, TV series. We're making some for Disney Plus. We make games and Roblox games, and sort of a world that's much more now a little bit. What you can expect, I can tell you from Moana 2, is some of the same love, some of beautiful songs. Our songwriters are awesome. I'm really proud of the team we put together. And just some really cool new aspects to Moana and her world. It's an adventure. It's just as epic, just as big, but it's a new adventure for her. And for me, Moana was such a personal project. I got so close to the people of the islands, and representing them culturally was very important to me. And that continues in Moana too. So I'm really proud of the team. It looks awesome.
You've been part of the Hollywood from over 2 decades now. Banned and limited. You also made film for Disney. What is the big difference, according to you, while when you work with these two studios between Pixar and Disney?
It's interesting because I came to Disney with the leadership, not long after the leadership from Pixar came. And so part of the effort I got to be part of, which was amazing, was helping bring some of the Pixar creative cultures to Disney. And what it was, it had come from Disney to Pixar. It was like the baton had been passed, but Disney had lost some of that thinking. And what that thinking really is at its very heart at Pixar is that creative is the most important. Story rules, everything else follows story. And sometimes that's expensive because you're making story changes late. And sometimes that's difficult because you think you've solved it. You sit in front of your group of your peers, you realize you didn't solve it at all. Nobody understands why Moana left the island, even though we've had this conversation 6 times already. So there's things to solve. You have at it until it's solved. And so it was a very similar perspective on storytelling. And I got to work with some of the most amazing people in the world who, before that change, were just getting too many notes. Things were confusing, or decisions were coming from marketing that should be coming from inside a creative storyteller's mind. That said, Pixar has a little bit more of a tech startup in its DNA, which is a little less hierarchical. It's a little less heavy legacy to carry, the history of, and Disney has a little bit more of that, 100th year. And so it's a little more work to stay light, but it's also amazing because you get to work with some of the most amazing people in the world. Who, the directors I got to work with on Moana directed Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Princess and the Frog, and there's more. So I was working with masters, and that's seriously cool. It's cool.
We are talking about the Oscars. What is your most enduring memory of the Oscar awards?
Okay, well, the 2 times I got to go when I was nominated, the first one was the time when they announced the wrong Best Picture. And they announced that, and it turned out it was Moonlight. I was there, and even in a People magazine big picture of everybody, Dwayne Johnson, Meryl Streep, everyone going like this. If you look for Sting, right behind him is me going, oh. So that was really memorable, that one. And then the next one I was at for Raya and the Last Dragon was the slap, was the one with the slap. So There have been, while I've had some very sweet moments, these were so, I don't know, they just changed the moment so much that you really, really remember them. But I remember meeting them incredible people, and I remember meeting like that many people were very kind and generous, especially at the Oscars lunch, where it's just the nominees and they mix you up at tables. It's just cool because we're all there at that point just to honor filmmaking, and we're all filmmakers and we love that. So it's, yeah, it's super fun and super cool. But really there's special moments like meeting the young filmmaker from Bhutan whose film was nominated, and we're just chatting and he's like, well, my daughter loves Raya and the Last Dragon, and says, why do you make boring films like like his film that was nominated and not films like Raya? So there's really sweet moments of exchange there.
And just moving away from the award chatter, but as a film producer, what are your views about Sora, which is the
About what?
Sora, that's a text to video generator AI tool?
Well,
Do you think it
well,
could trigger a big change in the way movies are made?
yes and no. First of all, we all already use AI, and every time we say, "Hey Siri," my phone's gonna wake up. So what we're thinking about in where I am now, which is part of why I went there, because it's so we're at the edge of things, and a little bit we can push at things because we're smaller. We have we look at AI as it's a tool for storytellers and filmmakers. So I can see where it's a tool where a lot of what we create can be stolen and all. I think people's worries are fair and true. We've seen people pushed out of factory jobs. It's always something in the level that we invent something new and people are pushed out of something. But if you imagine an interactive show where AI is helping your character be more real to you when you're interacting, or there are ways where it's a tool that can help us, just like the internet, just like anything else. It's a tool that can help us, that we can use to express ourselves even more. I wish when I was at film school, we could make a film on an iPhone. We needed film and it was expensive, and then we had to cut it on a little moviola, you know what I mean? So they're tools. We could do beautiful things with them, like all come together. We could do awful things with them, like hate each other. So it's a tool. We can't be afraid of it because whatever we're afraid of, we give power to, you know?
But people are worried about what if they lose their jobs?
Yeah. I think it's a real worry. Every time we invent some new thing that replaces humans, it's a real worry. Of course, it's a worry. We close mines, miners are going to lose their jobs. We might have to anyway. So I think it's a real worry, but it's not going to be stopped. So how do we make friends with it and try to convince each other to use it for the good, not taking away from writers and artists, not to invade our privacy and sell us more stuff we don't need, but to uplift, to heal diseases, to, you know, to fix the planet we've been destroying, to do a few good things.
What are your views about remakes of old classic animation films like Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Lion King?
It's so funny that you asked me that, because now I have to be careful not to get on my soapbox and tell you why don't they invent their own stories. Um, I
Do you
I'm
enjoy these
not,
remakes, or do
I'm
you like
not sure why you have to remake something that was already complete. Tell more stories in that world, yeah, but it's also they're good stories, I guess. I thought the Jungle Book was viable, but the animated Jungle Book is still one of my favorite animated movies ever made. I'm not sure I needed this, but I'm not maybe the target audience, so um I'm not a huge fan of the idea necessarily, but some of the films are better than many other films that aren't a remake. So, you know, there's so many stories out there. Do we have to tell the same ones over and over again?
then finally, what is your final tally? How many awards do you think Oppenheimer will be taking home?
Maybe three or four.
That's all.
Well, I think there's stiff competition. I think they'll take best picture. I think they'll take best actor in a leading role. And he's amazing in that. I have to say, like, you can watch a whole movie on his face, and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
Best director?
Maybe there's a world in which they finally give it to Scorsese. I don't know. Likely, and maybe cinematography, but there's some tough competition. Flower Moon cinematography is stunning. There's some tough competition.
How about
Uh,
best sound?
Sound? I never can predict sound. You know, in animation, no sound and no picture is free. So we design everything from beginning to end. And I always think, why aren't they awarding animation? These sound designers invented what this creature will sound like. So I never know, but I have a huge, from having worked now with some of the top sound people in the world, I have so much admiration for what they do. It's incredible.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for taking time out. We're looking forward to Moana 2. Thank
Mhm.
you so much and best of luck.
Thank you, and to you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.